What are your thoughts on Nick Saban's new contract from Lubbock, Texas? Well, if you just got home from work, yeah, Nick Saban signed a new deal today. He was not going to let Kirby Smart remain the highest paid coach in the sport for very long. So far, Saban's made about $100 million in his time at Alabama as the head coach. That's before bonuses, by the way. So just his base pay, he's gotten about $100 million. Not bad. Not bad at all. His new contract is for 8 years. It will land him about another $93 million, and it goes from $10.7 million in the first year up to $12.7 million in the 2029 season. So if he were to run out the length of this thing, he will have made $193 million during his time at Alabama. And really, with inflation the way it is, you need to be up in the $190 million range for it to really matter, don't you? I think so. So I told producer Jesse, because unlike the Sunday show, he actually had some time on his hands today. I said, Jesse, I don't know what numbers you're going to find. Just go sit in a room for 20 minutes, find me some impressive numbers. Because I am of the belief, as is anyone who understands economics, that you could pay Saban $20 million a year, and he's probably still underpaid. I saw Darren Ravel tweet out earlier today that Saban makes more per day than the annual tuition at Alabama. Well, that just means a couple things. Number one, he's probably still underpaid. Number two, college tuition's still insanely high. That's all that proves. It wasn't the gotcha that he thought it was. Rarely is it, by the way. So Jesse comes to me and he says, okay, so you know that he's got more, what does he have? He's got more first-round draft picks than total losses. Yep. He's got more national championships than anyone all time. Yep. He's got 4 Heisman winners. Before he got there, they had never won one. Yep. They've had 106 weeks as the number 1 team in the AP poll. Yep, I know all that. All right, give me something that I would not know off the top of my head. So Jesse comes to me and he says, let's talk recruiting. And I said, let's. He said, since 2010, that's 13 recruiting cycles, Alabama has finished top 5 every year. Talent acquisition, if that's the name of the game, that's where you want to be. So the past 13 recruiting cycles, Bama's been top 5 every year. They've been number 1 9 of those 13 years. Who's the second best? Who's the next closest recruiting machine to Alabama? It probably won't surprise you to know it's Ohio State. Over the past 13 years, Ohio State has had 9 top 5 classes. They've never finished number 1. They've had 9 top 5 classes. That's how many number 1 classes Saban's had over that time period. And it gets even juicier. How about this? The number 3 and number 4 most impressive teams over the past 13 cycles, that would be Texas and LSU. Texas and LSU over the past 13 cycles. The 3rd and 4th best recruiting programs over the last 13 years are Texas and LSU. They've got a combined 12 top 5 classes. Bama's got more than that by themselves over the past 13. They've been top 5 every year. They've been number 1 9 times. So by my calculations, that's pretty good. But that's not what I really wanted to show you tonight. I don't think that's the hammer. The hammer, and for our college audience, as I take a very relaxed posture here for some reason, our college audience is massive. It's the biggest chunk of audience. It's our biggest demographics, 18 to 24. You guys have only known prosperous times at Alabama. It wasn't always that way, children. But since you've known prosperous times at Alabama, I want to take you back a little ways. Because on the front end of his run there, you know, if you're in high school, if you're an early college age kid right now, you don't really remember Houston Nutt in the SEC. You don't remember Tommy Tuberville. You just know that's some dude in politics. You don't know he was the head coach at Auburn. You don't remember that Philip Fulmer actually roamed the sidelines of Neyland Stadium, and you don't remember that because Saban put every one of them out to pasture. So I told producer Jesse, how much carnage has he inflicted on this conference? How many careers has he completely torpedoed? How many programs has he sent into a decades-long abyss? And Jesse put together a graphic, and in the words of Dan Lust, one of the best legal minds in all of social media, take a look at this graphic of the folks he's run out of this conference. Again, I cannot stress enough. In the words of Dan Lust, one of the great legal minds on social media, assault. This is assault. Look at these names. Phil Fulmer's there, Urban's there, Les Miles, Spurrier, Derek Dooley. There's all kinds of Tennessee coloring here. Gus Malzahn, Muschamp, remember him? Does anyone remember Hugh Freeze, the Jim McElwain era at Florida? Does anyone remember Les Miles at LSU? Saban has seen them all come and go. Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee, Ed Orgeron, even after that fiery speech post-2019 at LSU. And then, since there were only 31 of them, but we had 32 slots, we just added in more to come. Look at those names. I almost want to just leave it up and admire it for a second, immunity, because those are a lot of names. And I was thinking to myself, if we expanded beyond the SEC, really, truth be told, there are more coaches nationally who have been fired that don't even have an SEC sticker on their team's helmet, that are gone because they weren't matching what Nick Saban does. So Nick Saban got himself a new contract today. I know a lot of you don't like him. One of the biggest complaints we have on the show is you talk about him too much. I just want to ask you this. If you had your own college football show and you were watching the greatest to ever do it in the midst of the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport, oh, and by the way, the traffic on videos in which you talk about him were about 23% above and beyond what normal traffic was, how would you format your show?